pillar gets destroyed and the debris falls down to the ground. The butler is in denial even after watching this scene. The female player says that this is definitely the doing of the Necromancer. One of the envoys says, "How can this guy get here so fast?" And the female player says it is not important right now. They were investigating a way to eliminate him, but it looks like the Emperor is going to finish him off anyway, so they will just get out of here first. Sungwoo comes down to the crumbled tower. There are a lot of hot fireballs coming from below. It means that guy is still alive down there. Sungwoo says that no one other than him can withstand this heat, and Dark Knight agreed with him, saying that it feels like his feet are melting. Sungwoo tells Dark Knight that in order to protect the salamander, other monsters will rush in, and Dark Knight needs to stop them together with Righty. Lizard-type monsters start climbing the wreckage, and Dark Knight says that today he may be able to complete the remaining time for the dragon egg to hatch. With that being said, both Righty and Dark Knight rush toward the wave of monsters. The heat wave below Sungwoo seems to be getting chaotic. After a few moments, something blasts out of the wreckage. This entity turns out to be Field Boss Monster Salamander, and he inquires about the bastard who did this to his place. Sungwoo says that it was too hot in the tower, so he tried to ventilate the place, but in the end it turned out like this. In reply, Salamander says that he will not ask who he is. He will just turn the intruder into ashes and sprinkle them on his bedroom floor. In reply, Sungwoo mocks him by saying, "Unlike the king in his neighborhood, it's nice that you don't talk too much." With that being said, both Sungwoo and the salamander start duking it out. Meanwhile, on the other side at the Taebaek Mountains, Jisoo-yoon and Han-ho got teleported somewhere along with the king. Their destination turns out to be a cave, and Jisoo-yoon says that she thought they were just teleporting to North Korea. King says that he cannot perform such convenient magic. This is a cave inside Taebaek Mountains where the mountain spirit energy gathers. Mountains have something like blood vessels, so through them, they can instantly move anywhere within the range of the mountain. Jisoo-yoon says that it's a little bit too dark for them, so she lit her own fire. The whole place become brighter, and Han-ho says that he is curious to know about this flame. Jisoo-yoon explains by saying that this is the Fen fire. She acquired it through a quest when she was in Taebaek Mountain, plus it's an exclusive item. It greatly strengthens skills that radiate ki, and it can also link to the other skills she has, and Han-ho replies by saying that you just picked a rare item. After going further into the cave, they find a lake. Han-ho is quite amazed by the beauty of this lake. There are a ton of items hidden around the lake. King says that it's his treasure house and they can pick a single item of their choice. Han-ho says that it's good that Sungwoo is not here, or he would have fought against the king to get his hands on all of these items. King finds an axe, which seems to be his precious main weapon. Meanwhile, Han-ho is trying his best to find something flashy. After some time, he finds an interesting looking jar. Younger Lion says that Han-ho cannot take this liquor. Jisoo-yoon asks if this liquor contains the inner core, and Young Tiger confirms her suspicion by saying that it's the inner core that she brought. King says that item is too much for humans. That item is still holding in the mountain energy and getting more and more concentrated. With that being said, King tells Jisoo-yoon to pick anything she wants. Jisoo-yoon picks up a legendary ranked sword. The name of this sword is Ulfbert, and it's a one-handed legendary sword. Every time the player cuts the enemy, his physical strength and energy will increase by 1 point, and it can be stacked up to 10 times. On reaching maximum stack, Song of the Battlefield is applied for 5 minutes. Song of the Battlefield gives immunity against status effects, and the wielder do not feels any pain. At the same time, another notification pops up informing her that certain conditions have been satisfied. The 3 conditions include being a resident of the World Tree, having the legendary Viking sword, and the last requirement is still unknown. Jisoo-yoon got lucky with her recent pick. King knows something about this, but he tells her that she will find more about it in the future. Han-ho picked up a metal sheet helmet to look cool during battles. He says that it will complement his Asura form, and King tells him to do whatever he wants. Now everyone is ready, and King uses Path of the Mountain Range. This is a fast teleportation skill. Only within a few hours they reach the nearest mountain in North Korea. System informs them that they have reached Duryu Mountain. Han-ho says that this spell was super quick, and now they should get going before Sungwoo finishes off all enemies on his own. King tells them that he is sorry that he did not talked about this earlier, but it's not just the monster emperor they need to worry about. There is an entity called the World Eater. Jisoo-yoon inquires about this World Eater, and King says that it's the unidentified transcendental being that they witnessed after defeating Dr. Yu. King believes that if something were to break out this time, that guy would definitely be the one to show up. Meanwhile, on the other side, Salamander threw a curved sword towards Sungwoo. Sungwoo jumped back in time to avoid the sword. Salamander picks up his sword once again. He pumps up while saying that he will tear him to pieces and burn him up bit by bit. Both Sungwoo and Salamander attack each other in unison. Salamander gets pushed back and he uses his Flame Nova skill, but Sungwoo parries it with his Grim Reaper scythe. Sungwoo gets ready to attack this time. On the other hand, Salamander gets ready to block it. Sungwoo uses his special skill Projectile Chains. The skill seals up the weapon of the Salamander. Sungwoo tells him to get ready since it is boxing time. Projectile Chains is a heroic rank item. It activates after clashing with the opponent weapon 5 times. After activated, it seals up the user's weapon and their opponent weapon for 5 minutes. Without wasting any time, Sungwoo kicks the knees of the Salamander. After that, he goes on for a straight punch. The punch lands right on the face of the Salamander. Sungwoo tells the Salamander to get ready since he is going to be his punching bag for some time. After that, Sungwoo uses Twilight Raid to bind the Salamander in mummy bandages. Now that the Salamander cannot move, Sungwoo unleashes a barrage of fists direct to his face. Sungwoo says that the feeling of binding a boss and beating the crap out of him feels amazing. At the same time, Salamander realizes that he is not up against any ordinary foe. Salamander says that you are quite strong, and what do you want from me, my land or treasures? And Sungwoo replies by saying that I want your bones. Sungwoo tells him to die in a better shape so that the bones don't get damaged. The wrapped up Tofu Salamander is shocked to hear that the intruder wants his bones. The Salamander flares up in anger and his high heat wave melts down the bandages that were holding him up. Sungwoo looks up as the Salamander is bulking up in both shape and size. Salamander dares up Sungwoo to try taking him down once again with his fists. Sungwoo says that now it is even better and Salamander is not sure what he is talking about. Sungwoo tells him that he should have done this earlier so now he can get a giant and strong monster's skeleton. Salamander tells Sungwoo to wake up to reality since he is now in his real form. With it, he can use his true power, unlike in his small body. Sungwoo pulls out the mythic rank Bihyung's hand fan from his inventory. It increases the magic immunity of its user by 15%. It allows the wielder to control a total of 10 ghosts. Each ghost performance changes depending on the user's affinity of the death attribute. Its description says that it contains the one who controls ghosts. Sungwoo waves the Bihyung fan in the air in order to summon the ghosts. A notification informs him that he can control the ghosts, and he has the highest level of affinity to the death attribute. Sungwoo will not get affected by physical attacks. He can control weapons of all ranks. He can inflict Chaos Curse on his target. He can possess targets below a certain level. Sungwoo summons his specters as well. This gives him a synergy effect due to the team play. This is a level 3 synergy called a being with no reality. It's a attribute type synergy. It requires more than 12 spirit type units under the user's control. It increases the movement speed by 30%. Now that Sungwoo is free to control weapons of all ranks at once, he summons his whole arsenal from the inventory. Among them is the legendary great sword called Leviathan, which he could not equip before. It increased his physical strength by 5 points, fire immunity by 10%, fire damage by 10%, and striking the ground will create a flame wave. Plus, this ability has the cooldown of 1 minute. Its description states it has yet to completely flame up. There are more requirements needed in order to exhibit its real power. Sungwoo requests the Salamander to not mind since he will be using a lot of bone weapons along with this legendary sword. Salamander says that he don't know what Sungwoo is planning to do, but it is futile since everything will melt in his fire. Salamander attacks the ghosts, but they had no effect. The ghosts start attacking the Salamander. Salamander is quite annoyed by their spiritual attacks, and he tries to burn them to a crisp using his flame breath. But it is of no use as he keeps getting pummeled by Sungwoo's bone weapons and the ghosts' attacks. Salamander is quite pissed, and he is thinking that the ghosts will disappear once he kills the one who made them. Salamander goes directly for Sungwoo as Sungwoo is thinking that the Salamander has no info on him. Sungwoo dodges the first attack and the Salamander goes for a follow-up attack by throwing rocks toward him. Sungwoo gets hit by a few small pieces and he falls to the ground. Salamander tells Sungwoo to say his prayers. With that being said, he bombards Sungwoo with his flame burst skill. He is thinking that there is no way the intruder will be alive after this, but it turns out Sungwoo is quite fine. As Salamander tried to close his mouth, he finds out that Sungwoo is in his mouth, and Sungwoo tells him that he was never afraid of these intense fire attacks. Sungwoo tells the Salamander to be a good boy and keep his mouth open as he prepares to use his demonic bombardment skill. Demonic bombardment melts the inside of the Salamander into nothingness. Field boss monster Salamander falls to the ground as a notification pops up telling Sungwoo that he received 28 million gold coins for slaying the boss monster. Another notification pops up telling him that he obtained the title of Spirit Predator. It increased his flame immunity and spirit domination by 20%, while his stamina increased by 2 points. Sungwoo is thinking whether this guy was of a higher level than the king of the Great Mountain Range. Sungwoo received another title by the name of Emperor Slayer. All of his stats increased by 3 points, and his damage to boss monsters increased by 10%. With the death of the salamander, the mainstream Chapter 4, The Fallen World's Overflow, has now ended. A larger notice will be made regarding an update. All of a sudden, Sungwoo notices something. He orders his specters to find the human who was keeping watch on him. He don't know who this person is, but he should confirm his intentions. At the same time, Sungwoo scavenges through his loot. Sungwoo found a advanced fire spirit stone which looks much better than the one he received after slaying the fire giant in Pyeongtaek. This fire spirit stone is a legendary rank crafting material. It's a magic stone in which the powerful energy of fire is concentrated. All of a sudden, all of his surroundings start to vibrate out of nowhere. He soon realizes that he felt the same kind of vibrations recently, as if something is slowly rising from deep underground. His guess was correct as a huge entity bursts out of the ground. This entity is none other than the One-Eyed World Eater. Sungwoo receives a notification that an unknown being is looking at him. He is being overwhelmed by the pressure from this otherworldly being, and all of his states have decreased by 50%. Sungwoo knows well that this is not an enemy he can take on right now, since he previously saw his ability to turn Dr. Yu into a mass of blood. A lot of notifications start popping up telling him that a lot of devil's pathways are opened in the area. Sungwoo is quite stunned to see that the World Eater can instantly open these dungeons which can obliterate this whole region. He can't stop it right now, so he starts to retreat. Another notification pops up informing him that this area has been shut down due to an unknown power. Sungwoo is now sure that this World Eater is hell-bent on finishing him right here. At the same time, the hell doors start to open one after another. High-ranked monsters start popping out like a tsunami. Sungwoo is certain that this will be his graveyard, but before they can land an attack, roots start popping out of the ground. The roots catch up the initial wave of the monsters and bind them in place. Someone seems to be controlling these roots from above. The person says, "I was wondering if you were off doing cool stuff all by yourself." But making an appearance at the perfect time is his specialty. King was wishing to be left alone in peace, but if Sungwoo is going up against that thing, then he don't have any other choice but to put in some effort. King rushes toward the World Eater as he warns him to better lower his gaze in another neighborhood. King lands a huge attack, but it gets blocked by a defense barrier. King grins as he powers up his fist. Then he slams the magic barrier and it shatters into pieces. The World Eater seems to be panicking as he got hit by King's fist. Sungwoo is thinking that maybe it is unable to use the same power as it used on Dr. Yu. At the same time, King flares up as he prepares his fist for an all-out attack. This punch seems to be quite effective as it shatters the World Eater. A notification pops up informing Sungwoo that the power of the world pushed out the otherworldly being out of the dimension. Sungwoo is shocked to find out that the king expelled the World Eater. But the devil's pathways are still here, so Sungwoo summons his minions to slay the waves of monsters. They receive 500,000 gold coins for each low-level monster slain. Sungwoo orders his minions to secure the entrance to the pathway before the number of beasts explodes. The waves of the devil's pathway have stronger monsters as the level increases. If something like the chief gatekeepers appear in groups, then he won't be able to stop the wave. He has to decide on a sequence and confront them level by level, but there are too many of them, so it is not possible to figure out which monster came out of which door. There is another problem since Sungwoo don't have enough minions to close off all devil's gateways. At the moment when it felt like his minions were being suppressed, something blasted off the monsters. These helpers turn out to be Asura Hanho and Jisoo Yoon.